It's amazing how people think that sales is a dirty word. I don't, that they don't want to be a realtor because that would be salesy.
Salesy.
And I look at it that that's not at all what we do. We provide a service. We are consultants, and that we are problem solvers, and how we can help them, like you said, change that, get rid of that pain point. So we're there to help, and it's not salesy at all.
Hey, Jack Lehr here down at Lehr Podcast. So met this young lady about a year ago. I believe it was down in Mexico, Gayle, correct?
Right, exactly.
Exactly. So I get the privilege and honor to have Gayle Phillips from the left coast. That's California, for those that don't know what the left coast is, because I have my own way of talking. Welcome, Gayle.
Thank you, Jack. It is great to be here. And I wish we had a margarita in front of us too.
I think we probably should be doing that right now. Yes. So Gayle, we got to meet each other at an event that was held down in Mexico, Xcaret, and similar brokerage, but it's not about that. It's about like this relationship, and we got to know each other a little bit. And your team is in Zillow Flex, we're in Zillow Flex, and we had a lot of commonalities, which was pretty cool, right?
Right.
So
I think I was actually fangirling you at the time, Jack. You and Sarah had been on the stage, and you had talked about some really meaningful and powerful stuff. And I said, I got to go meet this guy. So as soon as I could, I ran down, I introduced myself. You gave me a big hug, and you were just the nicest guy ever. So from that, I called you and asked you for some advice. And you were so nice to spend some time with me and my partner. So it was really, this has been a great friendship.
It's super impactful to me, and it's really beautiful when someone, maybe you get up on a stage and you share some information, or you share some stories, and then it connects you with someone, and that's kind of how it happened for us. And again, I'm super grateful that we get to build this friendship together. Gayle, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So let's talk a little bit about where you're from. Okay.
Well, as long as it hasn't washed away yet because of the rain, my team is smack dab in the middle of Central California in what we call Fresno, or Yes. So we are in a market of about 1 million people here in the center part of the state. We also have a team on the left coast, on the beach, near San Luis Obispo.
Okay.
So we have an expansion team there as well.
Very nice. And average price points, just to give a little bit of context to our listening audience, what the two different markets, what do they look like?
Average price point for our market is about $450,000-$500,000.
Okay.
In the central part of the state, which is the Central Valley. The coast, though, is significantly different, and the coast average price point is about $800,000 or $900,000.
8 or 9, and then you still have luxury market as well there too, well into the millions.
In both places, the luxury market in Fresno is probably at about $1.2 million on up, and then at the coast, luxury market will start at about $1.5 million, $1.8 million.
Very nice. So you. What got you into real estate? Where'd you come from before? A little bit about that.
Well, I have a background in government. I am very interested in history and politics. So that was my early career. Retired from that when I married my second husband, and we were moving to Carmel, beautiful Carmel on the beach, by Pebble Beach, if you know where that is.
Yeah.
And wanted to have a way of getting to know people. So real estate is a great way of making relationships and having friends and doing something I have a passion for, which is houses and homes. And so that's how I got in the business. And I've been in the business since 2000.
Very nice. So about 2000, it's a little over 20 years in the business. So you're in the business. Were you a single agent at that point?
I was a single agent in the luxury market. I propelled myself pretty quickly, unexpectedly, in that luxury market. In the first 2 or 3 years, I quickly got into that. I had to make some decisions though, whether staying in that early market. When you start in real estate, you oftentimes are representing investors. But investors like to buy low and add value and then resell or keep their investments and rent them out. So I didn't want to play in that pool for very long, and I had to very decisively make the decision to go into that upper market and let the investment side go.
Okay. So like when you're in the business for like that 20 plus years, you get to see the peaks and valleys, all the different shifts, all the different types of markets, and like whether it was truly the housing or something else that influenced it, whether it be a war or downturn or something, you've seen it all, right?
Absolutely. And I think the most important thing that I learned in that 20-year history is to adapt. It's the market of the moment. In 2008, we had a financial meltdown, banking financial meltdown, and I had the opportunity to go into the foreclosure market.
Okay.
So I remember my first time when my team at that point, I had a little bit of a staff. I was getting ready to go and visit my first foreclosure property that was assigned. And previously I had dressed pretty much like this with, professional clothes, high heels, fancy car, lots of jewelry. And they looked at me and they said, "You're not going to that part of town wearing that." So they threw a t-shirt over me, took off all my jewelry. And instead of my car, we took a minivan down to the property that I had to go see. We walked into that house and there was a marijuana grow room in it. Now, I was used to very different kinds of properties. And I can remember doing this whole, ooh, and I had to stop myself because I couldn't be that person anymore. I had to change personas and say, this is really sad that a person lost this house, lost this property. The market has changed, and now it is my job to help correct this market and get it back into a healthy place. So it was a matter of changing how I looked at real estate. I had to get real.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that's very difficult is that there's a lot of folks who entered the market in the last couple of years. They came into a market where, oh my goodness, the blind squirrel findeth a nut, and there was tons of nuts around that the blind squirrel could find. Now, were they getting deals done? They were writing like 67 offers to maybe get one done. So it was out there and available. But the adjustments that you had to go through back in that 08 range and probably in the 90s as well, like, geez, like there's a lot of things that can happen, and it's just changing that mindset to adapt. And a lot of times, I could talk to a lot of people and they get so focused on the way the market is or was, and they don't adjust to where it's going. And like, that's big that you did that. Can you talk to everybody out there? Because we have a lot of new folks that are in the industry. How did you adapt?
Well, first of all, it's all mindset, right? So first of all, I had to recognize that it was a mindset situation and I needed to change my mindset. So, and I had to do it quickly or else I was going to be one miserable puppy and not making any money. Right. So that really was, it was a aha moment that it is time to change, and that this wasn't that the new market that we were entering in, this new foreclosure market, wasn't going away soon. And I had to have the tenacity to pull myself through it and go through it and help my clients go through it, because we had short sales, we had bankruptcies, we had foreclosures. It was a tough time, and it was a tough emotional time for the people that were in those homes.
They went through that, and agents, they weren't used to this, because right prior to that, I just remember a lot of my friends, and I was fortunate enough to start investing in 1998 and a farm and a subdivision. But in 2005, 4, 6, like, you put in an offer, bam, they were getting done. We had the inventory as well. So the inventory was there, and you found a buyer. Like, if you didn't do $8 million in sales, like, you weren't alive, right? Like, all these people would come and want to be a part of our team and go, yeah, back in 2006 or 5, I did $8 million in sales. I was like, okay, well, then you must have been alive. Cause it's just like, the loans they were giving out to those folks in those time frames where, you know, if you had a breath, guess what? You got a loan. So think about that. Like these folks are doing these deals and they're writing, like people were buying houses and literally they were speculating. They were not investors and they were putting it back on the market 6 months later or 4 months later and making 60, 70,000 on the beach. Like a bunch of my friends were doing that. And like these agents just had it. Like they had everything going and screeching halt. The big short took place and the foolishness just unloaded. And you were there during that. So the short sales grew massively. And you got connected probably with a bank to be able to handle their foreclosures.
I was very fortunate. I got a phone call. I didn't solicit the business. That's where these relationships come into play. I didn't solicit the business. I got a phone call from the manager of Bank of America and of their loan division. And she asked me if I would like a foreclosure account. And of course I was jumping up and down because the market wasn't pretty. It was sort of in a stagnation mode. And when I was offered that, I quickly started receiving foreclosure properties. And I would carry anywhere up to 30 or 40 foreclosure properties at any time that we had to price and market. Not only did we have to price and market them, but we had the challenge of getting people out of those houses if they were homeowners.
Yeah.
And you'd go and knock on a door with a cash for keys offer. Recall that period. And there's a man or a mom, a wife standing there. And I explained to them the reason I'm there and they start crying. And I would have to stop and realize I'm dealing with human beings here that are losing everything. And when the husband starts crying, you start to really recognize the pain and the strain in that marriage. And I became sort of a counselor that this happened. It's okay. You will get another house in your lifetime. Right now, let's keep your family together. And here's an offer of $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 to help you get to your road to recovery. So it really was a place that I came from empathy.
So that, and we're going to get into this a little bit deeper on the relationship, because the relationships are critical for Gayle, and you can just hear it in your voice, you know, as we started and just some of the stories. But I'm just curious. So that was going on in 08, 09, 10, you know, early 11, 12, and we were big in the short sales, buying a lot of those. So did you ever find it where you built a relationship with someone during that time and they came back into your world somehow and later bought a home?
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people knew that, a lot of people that I had worked with in those early years came back and they wanted me to help them find their next house after they had gone through, you know, their recovery period of building their credit back up. Yes.
So think of I can remember quite vividly some of the agents that were handling the foreclosures, and really, and it was tough. Like you went out and tried to be sympathetic, but there's folks, you know, just like a lot of counselors, like you become pretty numb to that situation. And it sounds like, you know, maybe you had a numbness to protect yourself, but you still had that compassion in you to build a relationship. And that's why I asked that question, because I just think of most of the folks that I was dealing with while I was buying these foreclosures. I mean, they were just straight matter of fact, we're getting deals done. And I saw how they treated the cash for key situation. It's like, take the 5,000 and get the F out of here. And that's it. And Gayle wasn't like that. And because there's a lot of people that went through that, and many of no fault of their own. That's the big thing that we all have to understand. No fault of their own. They're struggling. Economy's beat up pretty rough. And Gayle's building a relationship in order to help these folks, not thinking you're ever going to work with them again, but because you were being a dagburn human.
Exactly. And you make a good point. Not everybody got themselves into the situation that they found themselves in on purpose. Certainly there is a percentage of people that went and bought the boat or got their house refinanced and over leveraged themselves, but none of them thought that they would be in a situation where we'd have an economic meltdown. So I don't, in most cases, the people weren't responsible for their own financial demise. It had to do, like you said, The Big Short, which is a much different conversation.
Right, exactly. That can go on and on, but that's one movie that, boy, when you watch that, you just get truly pissed off at that, at what took place. But like the relationships are the critical part for Gayle. Okay. So now you're building up into that world, and someday you grow up and you say, you know what, I'm going to build a team. And that happened about how long ago?
I had built a team early on, in the mid 2000s, 2005-ish, 2006-ish. And that team I had used the model of the buyer's agent, and I was the rainmaker, and I did all the listings and they were the buyer's agents. And for me, it didn't work very well, and it didn't work for them because eventually 3 of my buyer's agents quit. And I lost them. And so I learned a huge lesson. I do have a lovely story, though. The outcome is that relationships, one of those buyer's agents, 15 or 20 years later, I met her again last year. We lost touch, met her again last year, and tried to get her to come into our team. She came as a team member back onto the team, and now she's also our operations director. So that 20-year-old relationship has now converted into a very close relationship, and I'm just so grateful that she's back in my life.
That's wonderful to hear that. And I think the thing that we just sometimes tend to forget, because there is a hurt that comes along with building somebody up and then leaving. But as we learn and mature, we understand that that is a part of this business. And you were open enough to have a conversation with a previous relationship, because a lot of people, including myself, up until recently would have said, absolutely not. That bridge has been burnt. There's not a chance. But you were you saw it in your heart to maybe give that second chance. And now all of a sudden, this human became something pretty special for your business.
Absolutely. She's a key player to our business. In fact, I was reflecting yesterday morning, she was on a 7 a.m. Zoom with me and Susu and my business partner. And then last night at 7:30, she's texting us about some kind of an issue that she was wanting to improve. And so I sort of paused, and that was a 12-hour period of time that she in her heart was committed to growing our business. So that relationship is just so precious. And you're right. And we have had agents come and go. And I have to tell you that it is a tough one. As you know, when an agent finds some success, we've coached them up, and now they want to go fly on their own. And we're saying, no, wait a second. We want to make the umbrella big enough. We want to make the tent big enough. You need to stay. And we really have become, Gayle Phillips Group is the name of our team. And we really have become SPG University. And so I have to then rethink how I've approached this in my mind, that they have graduated to a place where they want to be able to launch, and it would be completely irresponsible of us to try and hold them back.
Yeah, and it goes back to the agent that was on your team previously and then joined Nanal's operations, that there's timing. There's like, I'm ready for them, and they were ready for you, and there was times when you weren't. And just being open to that, very, very difficult for most, including me. But as we mature, we realize that, it's mostly a timing issue, and there's people that are just not ready for us at certain times in our lives.
That's exactly right. So it's just finding that time.
Yeah. And then now you guys have a team and you have a business partner, right?
Right. Pam Santee. And I love her. And she was in my life 20 years ago when I got in the business. She was in a different role. She was a marketing rep for a title company, but I've always loved her, always respected her. And then when we had the chance to put a team together, we have just been doing this lockstep and having a ball.
That's wonderful. So now you have 2 locations over in California, and you're growing this team. And about how many agents do you have on your team?
We have about 35 agents. I haven't looked at the numbers recently, but that's my current count in my mind anyways. And we've grown pretty quickly in 2 years. We started this business 2 years ago, and we had to grow because we had a Zillow Flex account, and the market was thriving at that point. We're in COVID days. And so the people are buying houses from the Bay Area and from Los Angeles, and we have a huge demand. And so we have to add agents and bodies quickly. So we did a lot of recruiting.
So did a lot of recruiting. And, we talked about a little bit before we jumped on here, agent count and recruiting potentially, I'm going to use the word potentially, solves all problems. It potentially solves the revenue problem, right? Potentially.
Right.
Let's talk about like the pitfalls of growing a team.
And that's been interesting. We didn't even know what the pitfalls were. We didn't know where the holes in the ground were. And I think we've stepped in probably about every single one of them we could find. And they always come out of left field. So we've learned a lot. But recruiting has solved a lot of the financial problems, and it has pushed us to put things into place that we didn't know we even needed to have. But onboarding, the financial structures, commission splits, looking at what happens with those commission splits long term, the physical facility, outgrowing it.
Yeah.
If we go and get another a larger office though, and the market turns, now we're on the hook for a bigger rent payment. But if we don't get a bigger office, then how can we grow? So there's, so many challenges that we have been faced with and continue to overcome.
So you're 2 years into this team that you guys are building with 2 locations. Zillow Flex probably helped you grow out of necessity. Like you have all these connections, and we're a Zillow Flex team too, so we understand that growth. And like we want to grow alongside of you, Gayle, as Mr. or Mrs. Zillow would say. But you got to get the agent count to get these connections, because we need a certain answer rate, we need a certain conversion rate, like all these things that when they partner alongside of you, so they kind of force you to grow.
And they have, and it's been something that my partner Pam and I have looked at. And what we're learning from that is I think where we currently are is to continue to grow the team. And then those agents that have matured, and we have taught them how to work a traditional or more of a sphere-based business, they're now able to move into the sphere-based business and not have to pay the referral fee to Zillow. And we bring in new agents to come in and handle the lead generation from the team. And hopefully they'll progress and eventually be able to have a larger sphere business. So we're trying to take our percentages of where we were last year, which is about 60% Zillow Flex generated business and 40% sphere. We're trying to flip that on its head and change it to 60% sphere, 40% flex. So we continue working whatever direction seems to make most sense economically.
Yeah, I think it's a really nice business model, and maybe even as mindset shifts, to become a much more profitable business, is really growing that sphere business. And Zillow is a tool. There's so many people out there that bash it and say, you know what, you shouldn't be supporting them, whatever. Listen, there's so many different lead portals, there's so many different platforms, and again, you can certainly grow your business on any portal or platform, but understanding that, like, if you put it all into that basket, when things happen, because things do happen, we've seen it with other large portals and big names in that sector. And I love it that you're at 60, but you want to go to 40, and there's still a lot of growth opportunity, because you can still bring additional agents on and grow them up. And I think the thing that I hear often from Zillow Flex partners, or folks that question it and maybe as Zillow calls them, the disengagers, the ones that they're really offboarding or getting in the process, is that I have to pay that 35% referral fee or success fee. My goodness, if you do it right, you can turn that one client into 6 or 7 that don't pay a referral success fee. And that's what you're doing, right?
Exactly. That is the beauty of this business, is that it's the opportunity to bring buyers into our system, into our world. And eventually, after a couple of years or a couple of transactions, they become sphere-based clients. And we also get their other connections, uncles, brothers, friends. So we really are leveraging that. It's just a lead generation opportunity. The other thing, though, that I think is interesting for me, as I've watched and been in the business now for a while, is that newer agents have not had to invest in their business, put their own personal dollars into marketing. So whether you're paying a success fee or a marketing dollar to one system versus the other, there is a cost of doing business, and agents need to remember to pay their marketing cost to build their business.
And that's a great point, Gayle, because a lot of independent contractor, real estate licensed professionals, they forget that they're business owners. A lot of them like to think themselves as realtors that like to show homes. Now, we know showing homes does not generate revenue. It's helping them to get to success does that, but they are not mindful. It's just like, your husband's an attorney, right?
Correct.
In the attorney world, in the real estate world, in the doctor world, medical world, we tend to be really good at those certain things, but we forget that we're truly a business. And like, you're running a business here with your partner to become a profitable business, and they forget the expenses that go alongside of this. So there's an office space, there's back-end support, there's all these things that you and your business partner are investing in to help them be successful. And maybe that's just a little information out there for other agents that are single, that say, you know what, I just want to stay single, or I want to join a team, and they don't understand the value that comes alongside of a team. Could you talk a little bit about that for other agents?
Right. That's an interesting comment that you make. One of the first things that Pam and I realized as we were starting to build this business is that we had to make a huge mental shift from being what we thought a realtor was to being a business owner. And all of a sudden, the decisions that a realtor would make was completely different than what a decision that a business owner would make. An example might be something like having a lender or someone being able to help support the cost of your lead generation, like
right.
Some sort of some maybe marketing thing that you're doing, and really encouraging other businesses to help support that financially so that you can be profitable. So that has been a huge turn of our head, that we have to look through a different lens when we're talking about this business than being a realtor.
Yeah. And it's like, again, it's that maturity. We start to become, when we change our mindset to become a business owner, we need to look at the profitability and like how we can grow it and support our team, our agents, to grow their business. So in turn, they can help us grow our business. And a lot of agents forget about that because they don't realize that to get into the Zillow game in your world, number one, they're not getting into Flex, which they are way better than the paid for leads. I don't care what Zillow says. We were at both. We were one of the largest investors of agent, the pay-per lead. Now Zillow puts it on their balance sheet and allows us to go out there and successfully, help our clients and then pay the success fee. But my goodness, like, the expense on those leads, probably in California, you're probably talking $1,200 a lead. I know what they were on the East Coast and, in a much lower price point market. And then just being conscientious of all the other different lead sources that you're involved with, that there's a huge expense that these agents just don't realize the investment that's being made. So paying that 35%, That's pretty inexpensive to get a client pretty quick with a high conversion potential.
Exactly, exactly. We talk about that with our agents all the time. And when we are coaching with them in our one-on-one, Pam does most of the coaching one-on-ones. And she really stresses, when Zillow gives us the opportunity to work with a client, that's a $1,900 investment. So how we approach that every time we see someone not answering the phone, just look at $2,000 falling on the floor.
Oh my goodness. Well, and then the opportunity cost, because the revenue lost by not picking up that call. And, Zillow loves to, I'll use the word, maybe change the target from time to time. Okay. Just like everybody, they like one day it's going to, or one quarter, it's going to be like, hey, we are focused only on conversion. And quite frankly, that's really where it's at. But, answer rate, asking the question about going to see the home, like AI picks it up in the first minute. I don't know if you know that, but like the first minute of the call, if you don't ask them and say, hey, Gayle, hi, my name's Jack. I'm a Zillow preferred agent here in the local area. I see you're interested in 123 Main Street. When would you like to go see that home?
That is exactly what we say. We
Oh,
have
my.
that script dialed in. So we have a very high appointment rate. But you know what? The other thing is that the training that we've received from Zillow has been world class. And that goes on with the agents on everything they touch, whether it's an open house, how we approach working an open house is very much what we've learned from Zillow. So that training, it's just universally transferable.
It really is. And so we used to be way more hardcore on qualifying that phone conversation on any lead way before ever getting out of our seat to go see someone. And there was a few people on my team that were really awesome at that, but we had to simple it down. And that's really what Zillow, because Zillow has realtors that answer these calls. And not every realtor sees himself as a sales professional, a truly trained sales professional. There's a huge difference between a trained sales professional and somebody who has a license to potentially sell real estate. And get appointments, get appointments, get appointments. Face-to-face relationships, empathetic, curiosity-based conversations are the big difference maker in this business. And Gayle, I'll give you just like I shared this, I've shared this with a number of people, but in the last 90 days, we love tracking conversations and connections, but I kind of don't give two craps about that anymore. It's about appointments, and we're pushing for 2 appointments per day per agent. That's very high. Like you'll blow your goal away if you get 2 appointments on a daily basis. And by making that shift, way more appointments, way more written and ratified contracts. I don't know what you guys are doing. Like you're probably killing it out there with Zillow, but like that face-to-face, does that make a difference for you?
Getting belly to belly is really what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I get our agents out. I don't care what it is. You need to get belly to belly with people. And that is the most important thing, like you talk about. And if it's an appointment, I wish we were doing 2 appointments a day. If we looked at a 10% conversion rate, that would give you, if you did 10 a week, that would give you 1 sale a week. That'd be 4 transactions a month that would convert to. 4 times 12 is 48. You're at 50 transactions a year, which is an incredible opportunity and a lot of money to be made right there. Yeah. So we aren't at that number, and we have agents that are at different ranges of conversion. But we are trying to get to a 10% conversion rate for Zillow because they're all, or for our lead generation, because they are newer agents, and 10% is a tough number for them, but they're going to get there. It's not going to take them but a few months as they perfect that appointment, location, motivation. And it's really diving into that motivation of when they, and qualifying when they need to move and why. So that has a lot to do with being able to find that agent, that buyer, or seller that's going to sign the contract.
I love this. This is beautiful. I love talking Zillow Flex because again, there's a ton comes from Zillow, and getting that appointment, but then building the skill to have that ALM, and finding the pain point, like what's the pain level? How are we going to help them solve their pain, and getting the cast of characters, the decision makers. And then we're super hardcore on upfront contracts, letting them know it's okay, Gayle, we might get together and, you might think that I'm just not the right fit for you. Are you going to be comfortable letting me know that, because you won't hurt my feelings?
That's great. Yeah.
Just like again, those are skill building on the sales side. And if we can get our real estate professionals out there to truly, and again, Justin Nelson says it so beautifully, fall in love with sales. Don't be embarrassed of your profession.
It's amazing how people think that sales is a dirty word. I don't, that they don't want to be a realtor because that would be salesy. And I look at it that's not at all what we do. We provide a service. We are consultants, and that we are problem solvers, and how we can help them, like you said, change that, get rid of that pain point. So we're there to help, and it's not salesy at all.
No, and that, again, there's so many people that we've interviewed. They got their license and they don't want to be salesy. They don't want to make phone calls. They don't want to do the things necessary to, prospect and build their business. Again, certainly not a good fit for our team. Most of them will be out of the industry pretty daggone quick, because you're not willing to do the things. And more importantly, they think sales is a bad word because, again, unfortunately, the industry has taught us, if we look at all different sales, there's real estate folks that are horrible in that world. There's you name it. There's lots of different salespeople who have taught us that it's a bad word.
Right. It's really just lack of information or training. I mean, every time you go to a party, everybody wants to talk real estate. So all of a sudden you're popular because you can talk, if you know the product, you can talk about the house that's for sale down the street. People love that.
Yes. Go into that conversation, Gayle, with that empathetic, curiosity-based conversation, and learn, and we just love the spew. When I say we, the industry, oh my gosh, that house down there, I don't give two craps about that house. I want to sell my house because my wife and I are getting divorced and we just need to sell. Let's ask the questions to find out what's going on in their world so that you can help them. Because you go to a party and somebody goes, Gayle, how's the market?
Market's great. Are you a buyer or a seller, right?
It just depends. Let's find out more about what they're trying to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
So you have your team, about 35-ish agents. Something that kind of impressed me was the support, and running a lean shop and giving a lot of support. What does that look like on your team?
We have a operations director who works for us 29 hours a week, no more than 29 hours a week, because California has very strong labor laws. And that would change our cost of her as an employee. So it is really starting with profitability in mind, running a lean shop. My partner and I are clearly very involved, and maybe too involved. And that's something that we're having to learn, where to push and where to pull. We also have a VA. So we have a VA and a part-time operations director, and Pam, my business partner, and myself. So we lead with profitability in mind. If we can't afford it, we don't do it. So that's been really, and we've been profitable. That's the amazing thing. How many businesses, 2 years in, we were profitable last year. So the profits hopefully will get bigger. They've been, meager, but we have been profitable. So we just are going to continue running on a lean model.
And I think that's something to be, I want to acknowledge you for that, because here's the deal. About midway through that year, we saw a 40+% drop in certain markets across the US, and to be profitable with half the year, at least, going through that foolishness, that's making some adjustments, right?
It was cutting out some big numbers. really, and it sort of hit us hard because one of the things, Pam and I come from a real estate, the realtor mindset, and keeping an eye on that bottom line is not what Pam and I do very well. So that is one of our pain points. And we know that this year and year 3, going into year 3, we're having to grow as professionals as well. So everybody's growing. The agents are growing. We're growing. We're learning what we need to know so that we can continue getting better and better.
So somebody's out in your market and they want to join your team or be considered to be a part of your world. Who are you looking for?
We are looking for newer agents or agents maybe that have gotten out of the business for a while and need a jump start to get their business back together. So either of those kinds of ends of the spectrum. So somebody that needs some help because we've got this great lead. We have a couple of lead generation platforms. So if they need team leads and some training and scripting and helping being coached into becoming the realtor that's successful, that's the kind of agents that we're looking for. And we've been pretty lucky. Our agents have been helping us grow the team. At first it was us going out and soliciting, making appointments, but now the team is bringing people in to help grow the team because they want to maintain a certain culture as well. So that's been cool.
And I hear this a lot from a lot of team owners, operators, and they get caught up in saying, you know what, we just don't want to grow because we want to protect our culture. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, at first, I didn't know what to expect. Our culture is a very high culture because Pam and I have people attract like. So if you are a certain kind of person, you're going to attract people like you.
Yeah.
So Pam and I being the way that we are, we attracted people like us. So we are probably 80% women. We are looking for men, but we are mostly a women-based company. The culture was small in the beginning, and the agents that joined us liked that small culture.
Yeah.
But as we grew, the culture changed, and some agents didn't like it getting bigger. It was no longer a small boutique operation. So we lost a few because of the size, because as we grew, we became a bigger organization. Now the culture, though, we've been very successful in maintaining our culture and put that above all else in any kind of decision making we do. We've had to let a couple of agents go. I think we've had 2 that we've had to ask leave because they didn't fit the culture. And it was painful because we don't like to ever have to have someone leave, but it protected the culture, and it also makes a statement of who we are and what we think is important.
Yeah. And I think, if you purposefully and intentionally just raise the standard with each hire and let them know the expectation, like, we love our team, the culture is beautiful. Is it perfect? No, because there's going to be times when that doesn't happen. But when you join our team, can we count on you to help raise the standards? Because I don't want to hire to where they're at. I want to hire to where we're going, and then raising them up to help them raise the others. And just, I think that's a big thing with teams, is that we get so focused on, and again, I know some really kick butt teams that we're involved with, some in the Tom Ferry organization, some not, and they won't hire anybody because their other teammates have said, if you bring somebody on, it's just not going to be the same. Now, that's probably a different conversation, but you probably experienced that a little bit.
Absolutely. We have, our team members enjoy the growth of our lead generation platform. And the only way that we can get more leads through certain lead generation platforms is to grow the team. So they have to understand the reason that we're growing the team. And once they understand the reason is ultimately for the health of the team, they're accepting of that. At one point, we had a difference of opinion between 2 team members. And it got to be a little bit of a shouting match in the office one day. And I thought for sure we were going to lose one of those team members.
Mm.
They kind of cooled down. I think the weekend went by, and I spoke to one of the team members, and we talked about what was going on. She said she thought she'd have to leave, but ultimately she didn't end up leaving. They both were willing to come into a meeting with me. They both shared their perspective and what they were upset about.
Yeah.
And they agreed to disagree, but to respect one another's rights to have a different opinion. And we moved on, and they're both here with the team. So, I'm really proud of that particular moment.
That's beautiful. And just reinforcing with your teammates to help you and help the other teammates to protect that culture and to be cognizant of what's going on, and the I'll call it the water cooler conversations,
Exactly.
because they do take place. Like, they take place whether you think they do or not.
We know they do. Absolutely. And
Yeah.
it's trying to stay in tune, or being open enough to figure out which ones are important to address and which ones will just seem to go on and flutter away.
Well, I'm going to make sure that we put your contact information here, Gayle, so that they can reach out to you as you're growing your team. I don't know if you have any questions for me while we're here today.
Jack, being with you and Sarah for the past year on and off, I have watched you and so admire you so much, because you have superpowers that I don't have. And I'm wondering, how did you get your superpowers?
What are these superpowers that you refer to, Gayle?
Your openness to help other agents, for one thing, is you're always willing to take a minute and help someone else. That was so impressive, and something I'll always remember and honor that commitment myself.
Yeah.
You're always positive. You have a command of the industry. So let's start with those.
Okay. Oh my goodness. I mean, I think the helpful part is definitely from my dad. Yeah, I'll try not to get super emotional. He's been up in heaven staring down on me for probably last maybe 12, 13 years now. And just would give the shirt off his back, like just one of the most humble human beings, an incredible, great athlete that I didn't even know he was an athlete until I was in 7th grade. I didn't know that he was the first quarterback at my high school and scored the very first touchdown and went to college to play college football. Didn't even know that until like 7th grade, and just kept super, super humble. Didn't need to be braggadocious whatsoever, and just was always helping. And I remember, Gayle, I just remember growing up, and, we didn't have much money, had a ton of love. And I remember Dad, there was a gentleman up the street that didn't have any food, any money, and he would just go and help this guy and take food to him. And we called him Uncle George, and he would help Uncle George. And my dad would grab all the local kiddos in our neighborhood and offer to take them to church. He would just take these kids to church, and he would take them to McDonald's afterward. He'd take, like, my sister and I to McDonald's or Wendy's and get them food. And
it's a beautiful story.
Yeah. That's where it comes from.
Well, all the people that come across your path are very blessed, and I consider myself one of those.
Yeah. I'm super grateful, Gayle, that we got to know each other and spend some time together. I'm looking forward to that next time. Hopefully it'll be like with a couple margaritas by a beach, sometime soon, right?
I would love that. Absolutely.
It might be in San Diego later this year. I think I'm planning to go out there, so I'm not sure if you are. So yeah.
Well, I'm still trying to figure that out.
Understood.
I know I will come across you soon. You guys are amazing, and I just appreciate everything that you do for our industry and that you do for our team. So thank you.
Yes, and again, as Gayle, as you grow your team, please hit her up, because she's just a remarkable human being. it shines through heavily here in our moment, or like our hours together today. And again, if this resonated with you, it made sense, if it somehow helped you, please like, share, subscribe. And again, Gayle Phillips, super grateful for my friend and our left coast. I just love you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jack. See you soon.
All right. Make your day great.